Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Bruce Hill, New Skills, New You for your sales Q&A. Here's what we're going to do. Going into 2026, I want to make sure that your questions get answered. So I'm going to set up, if you put your questions in the comments, but I'm going to set up a form you can submit questions. So let's say you're a founder. You're like, man, it's founder-led sales right now. It's me and the technical founder. We've got to get that first client. We got to get that first hire. We got to get this first investors. What do we need to say to them, right? I want you to be able to ask your specific questions. Maybe you're a career professional, right? Listen, I do not recommend entrepreneurship to anyone. I recommend ownership to everyone. That's different. So maybe you're a career professional and you're like, man, listen, I really want to transition industries. Okay, great. How do we do that? It's the same skills we learned from selling. And maybe you're, hey, I'm working on this promotion. What do I need to do? Know, think, say. And you want you to be able to ask questions around that. And if I can't answer it, I'll bring in a friend like shout out to Kamara Daughtry, excuse me, where that's the career coach we'll go to. Um, but there's a lot of overlap for those skills. Then maybe you're an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur. You're like, hey, Bruce, I want to be myself. I want to sell. I want to have space for you to ask those questions. So what I don't want you to do, don't use I'm new as an excuse. Use that as the springboard. So now you say, hey, can you help me figure this out? I'm new. That's different than how I can't figure it out. I'm new. This sponsor, shout out to my buddy, Sunday Couture. He has a new role and he was like, hey, Bruce, just got the sales role. He's left the hospitality industry and he's working in logistics now. He says, what do I need to know to succeed in this sales role? So that's a good question. That's a really good question. Now he's done sales before, so he's not brand new, but he's wise enough to ask the question again. You don't say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm new." Say, "Hey, I'm going to figure it out because I'm new." Right? So that's where I don't want you to use "I'm new" as an excuse. Oh, let me see if I can get my shirt in here. Shout out to Author All Stars, the Book Rich Profits Club. Um, so here's some things that I share with him in his new role. He's trying to succeed in sales that you can use and take to your life and business. So number one is learn as fast as possible. You may hear some people say fail as fast as possible. Um, Corporate isn't really a great place for making mistakes. Unfortunately, I mean, mistakes is how we learn. By trial and error is how we learn. So what I recommend to him, there's certain metrics you have to hit. Ask himself, how quickly can you hit those metrics? So one of them is 100 phone calls a day. So I want to ask the question, how can I make 100 phone calls before noon? Right? How can I make 150 phone calls? Even if it's just, let's say, 120, right? A 20% increase above the requirement, above the average, above what everyone else is doing. So by the end of the week, you've made 600 calls to everyone else's 500 calls. That's 100 more calls than everyone else. And even if you don't talk to or close any new deals at first, you're getting in repetitions more quickly. This is where the fallacy, we've heard it over and over and over again. So often we think it's true that you have to have 10,000 hours to become the expert. And that's close to true, but it's not accurate. You want 10,000 repetitions. Depending on what you're doing, it may take you more than 10,000 hours to get those 10,000 repetitions. However, it may take you less than 10,000 hours to get 10,000 repetitions. A great example, we were talking about this current book I'm reading, The Opposable Mind. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make sure my book's on here. Hold, please. If you're listening, you'll hear me rummaging around in my backpack for a copy of my book. Sponsored by New Skills, New You. There we go. So better questions, better clients. There we go. Thank you to New Skills, New You for sponsoring this episode. They talked about tennis and practicing your forehand. So there's two levels to it. You, I don't want you to just practice your forehand for 10,000 hours, but 10,000 reps of your forehand are going to make it familiar. It's going to make it strong. So here's the difference. You don't get bonus points for taking 10,000 hours to do something. How much progress have you made in those 10,000 hours? So if you practice your forehand, chess playing, sales calls, interview skills, if you practice wrong, then you're just going to be really good at doing it wrong. So again, the amount of time you took isn't the point. The fact that you practice it wrong is missing the point. How can we practice getting it right faster and faster and faster? That's where coach comes in. That's where ChatGPT or YouTube is a good way to learn, but it's not a good way to grow. Coach can give you feedback. Coach can tell you, hey, you talk too fast on your sales calls. Hey, listen, you're not pointing your toes in the right direction when you shoot the basketball. Whatever the case may be, there's feedback that you get that's invaluable. So I want to make the updated is how do we get to 10,000 deliberate repetitions towards improvement? That's number one. So that's going to be for him, that's going to be making more calls. And that's where in Better Questions, Better Clients, there's a chapter on processes. And that's how we deliver exceptional results consistently. That's going to be through the process, right? I need to memorize these page numbers. Let's see here. I'm going to find it. Here we go. Process. How do we create the desired results consistently? Page 33. You want results from your customer success team, marketing team, or sales team. This advice can apply to any department and does not have to be about sales. That's why you picked up this book. If we can address all the other challenges in your business, we can help you become more successful. When you find something that works, you may ask, how do we do it again? That's the question. Better questions, better clients. So the point for him is not to just make more calls because he has extra free time. He just loves calling strangers and getting hung up on and cussed out. The question is, he's got to find as quickly as possible what works. Then he's going to duplicate that. Then he's going to iterate on that. Then he's going to improve on that. So that's what you have to do. And this is where I got one of my most successful jobs is I had some bad interviews with their competitors, actually. And then when I got to the job I really wanted, I was ready. I'd already done it wrong. I'd figured out what was right, and I just did what's right. Had a rock star interview, got the job. So the first things first, how can we quickly find out what works? That's through repetitions. If he says, let's use calls again. Let's say you have to make 100 calls. Okay. So Bruce, that's your job. You gotta make some calls. How many calls do I have to make? 100. And so I make 100 calls in a week. Someone else makes 100 calls in 2 weeks. Someone else makes 100 calls in a day. And listen, you're like, oh, I couldn't make 100 calls a day. That's a lot of calls. It's not. Let's say an 8-hour day, take um, two 15-minute breaks in a 30. That's an hour. Then let's just throw off another hour for admin and training. So 6 hours of calling. That's only 12 calls. It's only 12 calls an hour, one every 5 minutes. You're good. Oh, wait, I think my math's off on that. What's 12 times 6? 72? Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a mathematician. I actually am a mathematician now. That's what I went to school for. I feel like it's closer to 15. Do. Let's do. Yeah. So if you do, let's say 18 calls per hour for 6 hours, just 18 calls. So how many is that per minute? It's 3 minutes a call. You'll be 108 calls actually. Stay with me. So 18 calls an hour, 3 minutes a call. You're gonna get a voicemail, you're gonna get wrong numbers, you're gonna get hung up on. If you talk to someone, that's actually even better. So if you end up like, hey, why didn't you make 100 calls? Well, man, I had a great conversation and we're moving them to the next step. That's a win. That's another conversation for another day. We talk about revenue operations. The point isn't to make calls. The point is to have conversations. But for this example, we're talking about practice. So if that's your job, 18 hours, or excuse me, an 8 hour day, 18 calls an hour is possible. We're just not used to focused effort, focused activity. It's why I love reading physical books. It's why there's not an audio version of this. It's why there's not a PDF version of this. I need you to sit still and focus on one thing at one time. And it's not even because this book is magical. It's good. It's really good. Shout out to everyone who contributed making it a success. It's because it doesn't become useful if you don't understand it and apply it. That happens through focus and attention. And it's a great habit. It's a great skill to learn for other areas of your life, like making calls. Now, if you're a founder, for example, there's a lot of things you got to be juggling. Uh, but you need to set time on your calendar to just ask people for their business. You need to set time on your calendar to ask investors for their money. That needs to be part of your regular scheduled weekly activities. So maybe it's not 100. That's not a lot, but maybe it's 50. You can do 50 calls in a week, 10 calls a day. Yes, you can do that. If you're telling me that you don't have a job, if you're like, man, we need some investor money, if you're like, man, I'm a freelancer, I don't have any clients for next quarter, you need to make 50 calls a week. Okay, not emails, not texts, not DMs. I need you to call. Where do I get their phone number? I'll help you with that too. Shoot a comment and I'll dive into them. But, excuse me, and this should be a non-negotiable. Can't say it any nicer than that. All right. Step number one of success in a new role is practice. It's deliberate. What's her name from Grit? Angela Duckworth. Deliberate practice. That's practice with the intention of getting better. So he's making more calls than his team members. The second thing that he does, and this is something we run into all the time, is he keeps learning. Once you finish the training, that's not the end of your learning, that's the beginning of your learning. A lot of folks finish high school and they say, "Oh, good, I never have to read again." They finished their college, university, said, "I'll have to never have to buy another book." I look, literary books. Just Think and Grow Rich. I read that a few times this year. There's The Opposable Mind. Wrapping that one up. Um, my favorite book of the year. Um, I think it's in my bag. There's more around here somewhere. I think I've finished 18 books this year. That's not difficult either. The average American after high school reads zero point 0.8 books a year. That means they're either starting books and not finishing them, or it takes them 5 years to read 4 books. All you have to do to be above average is read one book. Check this out. I'm going to help you out. So this book, Better Questions, Better Clients, is 122 pages. Okay? 122 pages. So that means all you need to do is read 4 pages every day. That should take you a few minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. I have a good friend of mine. He's dyslexic, so it might take him 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 4 pages, 1 month, you'd be done with one book. You got 11 more months and you're still above average. And so what's that got to do with learning? Learning shouldn't take you another degree. It's not something you stop and do. It's something that you do as you grow. as a part of your growth. So that 10 minutes, you learn something, you go apply it, right? The next day, you read your 4 pages, your 6, 10 minutes, and you go apply it. The point isn't just to read books to turn the pages. The point is to supplement your action. So check this out. Action without knowledge is reckless. Knowledge without action is a historian. But knowledge times action is where success comes from. That's it. Knowledge times action equals success. So for him, he's been studying the industry, their language, their problems, their concerns, and understanding what their goals are, their priorities are, and talking to them in their own language. So that comes back to those phone calls. What do I say on the phone calls? Well, I know what to say. So if you're in logistics, say, hey, listen, I know that you've got to get what you've built, created, produced, manufactured, harvested, to where it's going on time and cost efficient. And I have to say on time first because if I could get it to you cheaper, but it takes longer to get there, or if it arrives damaged or it's unsellable when it arrives, you haven't actually saved any money. So if I could get it on time and cost efficiently, I don't usually say discounts. Saving money isn't a great business strategy. Um, you can't save your way to growing a business. You grow your business through grow revenue, grow client base, keep spending the same. That's how you grow. Anyway, I'm always big on that. If you want to save money, go to Costco. Right. So that's it. That's the pitch. Hey, listen, if I can help you get what you manufacture, created, produce, harvested to where it's going more efficiently, doesn't make sense. We have a conversation. They're gonna say, well, how do you do that? Hey, I'm glad you asked. My name is Bruce. I work with New Skills, New You. I make sales simple for entrepreneurs, founders, and people just like you. Right. And now we're gonna have a conversation. Notice on that intro, I didn't start with my name. I didn't start with my business because it doesn't matter. You always start with the outcome. You always start with the goal. Begin with the end in mind. And so now they have a reason to listen to you. Now they have a reason to talk to you. And that level of confidence only comes from the practice we talked about and the continued learning that we talked about. You say, listen, I know this time of year it's tough to get a truck going from here to there, from Atlanta to New York. Why is that? Hey, because I know it started snowing. It snowed in my hometown this morning. They're like, yeah, you're right, it did. Hey, listen, I get it. I'm here to help make that a little easier for you. What do you have going that way? I want a chance to prove myself. And they're going to ask, okay, we need to see your DOT number, make sure you're a real company. Sure, yeah, Google me. All right, can we get this done? All right, Rose, let's do it. That level of confidence comes from practice and from continued learning. So that's what I gave him in his role. That's what I'm giving to you. The third thing is going to be time management. So one thing that a lot of people get in trouble is called active procrastination. It's where they're doing useful things, but they're not the urgent things. And I need to remember to send you, if you search what video is that? Give me a few seconds here. It's on time management. If you go to the page, New Skills, New You, and just search time management, um, you'll see where we broke down the difference between urgent and important. That really helps us make better decisions on how we spend our time. So I said, listen, when you're doing this research on the industry, when you're studying trends, when you're um, learning about running a business so you can talk to business owners, right? Do that when you're not calling. So I don't want you doing research at noon. I want you to be calling at noon because people are going to be in the office. They're going to be working. Afterwards, 5, 6, that's when you can do any extra research. Now, someone says, oh, Bruce, I don't get paid for that. This is what I love about sales. This is what I love about entrepreneurship. You absolutely get paid for that. You have to you have to separate, don't confuse salary versus revenue. So what does that mean? Action, talking to potential customers creates revenue. Knowledge multiplies that revenue. So perfect example. I have a client that's like, hey, we need help making phone calls. And that's a $10 hour job, respectfully. And I was like, okay, well, who are we calling? And they said, well, we got some leads. And I said, well, which bucket did these leads fall in? They're like, oh, I don't, they were mixed up. So, okay. And I said, if they can't afford this, what's the downsell? What's the alternative? How are we going to help those folks that aren't ready to invest? I said, oh no. I said, well, how are we tracking these calls so you make sure I'm doing a good job, but we also figure out who's answering the phone, doing voicemail? They're like, oh, we don't know. So now because I have knowledge of what their business, I'm asking, there it is, better questions, better clients. So now since I set up $10 an hour, now the proposal starts at 10,000 because I say, hey, listen, we're going to help track this effectiveness. We're going to document the effectiveness. We're going to make SOPs. So now every single call is valuable, and and we're going to convert higher in the short term and on the long term. It's like, man, this is great. We didn't realize that we needed that. So that's where time management comes in. If I had been studying when I should have been on that call, I would have missed opportunity. So the study happens outside. Now, it doesn't have to be 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. It just should not interrupt your practice, your outbound, um, your prospecting, your sales calls, right? I'm not saying you should work 18 hours a day. In fact, if you're efficient, you shouldn't have to, because then we can start talking about automating and delegating. Different conversation for a different day. So those are three things I told him. I was like, you need to out practice your teammates. You need to out study your teammates, and you need to manage your time more effectively. Ask yourself, is this the most important thing I should be doing right now? Better questions get better answers. So listen, my name is Bruce Hill. I make sales simple and I help businesses grow long term through personal and professional development. Hit subscribe. What is it? Like and subscribe, share with a friend every Tuesday. And we're going to add Wednesdays as well. We'll have some live business training, sales training to help you